Two people in the same room, miles apart. I've learned that distance doesn't always begin with conflict. Sometimes it begins with something far quieter and far harder to admit. A kind of jealousy that neither names, not to each other, not even fully to themselves. It starts around small things, the sparkle that used to be easy, children's schedules that now dominate the week, school calls, care arrangements, calendars that always seem to land on one side more than the other. Life becomes organized around logistics rather than connection. And then there are the hours, one working irregular patterns, hospital shifts, emergency work, nights that blur into days, the other carrying long, relentless days of a different kind, steady work, emotional labor, holding the rhythm of the home together. You don't collide anymore. You pass, and somewhere in the quiet, often late at night, a thought forms. I'm not getting the warmth I used to. I don't feel chosen anymore. But it stays unspoken. Because even as the thought appears, there's a sense the other may be feeling something similar. So both stay quiet. One becomes more efficient, the other more contained. It's easy to tell yourself, this is normal, that this is just the season you're in, that everyone with children feels like this. And yet, beneath the fatigue, something more delicate is happening. A sense of being second now, to the children, to the schedules, to responsibility itself. This kind of jealousy doesn't look dramatic. It looks like silence. It looks like going to bed tired without reaching out. It looks like noticing the other light up elsewhere, at work, with colleagues, in moments outside the home, and wondering quietly why that energy doesn't seem to make it back through the door. I've lived through this, where neither is wrong, where both are trying, where both are thinking privately. I miss how it used to feel, and I don't know how to ask for it back. I can see now how clearly it showed up around holidays. Every year, we'd take that break, and for that time, everything worked as it should. There was ease again, laughter, a sense of us that felt natural rather than managed. And I would say to her, this is how it should be all year, not only when on holidays, not as a complaint, just as an observation. But what struck me most was how quickly it dissolved on the return. Sometimes, even before we arrived home, I'd noticed the change on the journey back, a tightening, a shift in tone. And then, almost without pause, we'd be at the front door. She would scoop up the post immediately, the brown envelopes first. Her demeanor already altered, as if the holiday had been left somewhere behind us on the road. Then the newspapers, the dreaded newspapers. She would open them straight away, reading with focus and urgency. And I remember the feeling that rose in me, not anger, not accusation, but a quiet, internal aggravation, unspoken. Because what I was really reacting to wasn't the mail or the news. It was the speed with which the outside world reclaimed the space we'd briefly made for ourselves. It felt as though the warmth we'd shared had no chance to settle, as if responsibility rushed back in before we'd even crossed the threshold. And I didn't say anything, because I could see what she was doing, preparing, bracing, taking hold of what needed managing. What I didn't yet understand was that we were responding to the same pressure in different ways. I was trying to hold on to the feeling. She was preparing for what awaited us. And in that difference, distance quietly re-entered the room. This is where something small can matter. Not a confrontation, not a long conversation at the wrong hour. Something quieter. I remember writing a few words once, Not a message, not a conclusion, just words left on the kitchen table. I addressed them the way I used to, even though it had been a long time since. That it had felt like the special word that couples give to each other. I was adding it to the note. The note didn't explain everything. It said something like, "This world feels empty right now. I think we're both feeling it, more than we admit. I feel the distance too, and I don't want us to keep facing it silently." That was it. No demands, no blame, just recognition. And something shifted, not instantly, not dramatically, but enough. Because when pressure is finally named, it stops being mistaken for indifference. And if you're a guy reading this, and you can't picture a softer side of yourself, stay with me for a moment. Go past the surface layer, past the habits, past the roles we've learned to wear so well. Drill down beneath the stoic face, beneath the man-up reflex, and look for what's still there. There is usually a spark, sometimes covered, sometimes buried, under years of responsibility. That's the place this comes from. Not weakness, not surrender. Inner roads exists because many of us have already lived through chapters of life we did not fully understand at the time. We speak now from years traveled, across countries, across working lives, across real experience, not to instruct, and certainly not because we have all the answers, but because some of what we learned, often the hard way, might help someone feel better prepared than we once were. If this conversation speaks to you, subscribe, not as a transaction, but as participation. Your reflections are invited. We read them. We respond. The insight shared here comes from people who once wished someone had been there during times of regretted stress, but no one was. That is why this exists now. If you are navigating friction in family life, whether as a couple, a single parent, a grandparent, or simply someone trying to do better, you are not alone. We offer perspective earned slowly, and we will continue walking these roads, learning together.